It is official. DNI Tulsi Gabbard has followed through on her promise to declassify even more documents. So last week, Tulsi Gabbard declassified 114 documents, which for the first time is actual evidence we have that Barack Obama instructed his intelligence officials to basically concoct this entire Russiagate hoax. Well, she hinted over the weekend and yesterday that there was more information coming, and earlier this morning she dropped a 46-page memo. Now, before I go through all of this newly declassified information, I want to prove that this is real, just because there is so much misinformation going on online. So according to Fox News, Brennan directed publication of implausible reports claiming Putin preferred Trump in 2016, House found. DNI Gabbard declassified a report prepared by the House Intelligence Committee containing the findings. Now, what's particularly interesting about all of this is that the report was published on September 18, 2020. And by the way, Adam Schiff was the chairman of the committee at the time, which means he knows the report exists, he's seen it, he knows the contents of it, and despite all of that, he hasn't changed his tune at all on Russia, 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 which he has been screaming at the top of his lungs since 2016. It just shows you how much of a liar he is, which of course we all already knew that, but it is nice to actually have evidence backing that up. Now, on top of all of this, the report has never before been released to the public and instead has remained highly classified within the intelligence community. Fox News Digital obtained the unredacted and fully sourced limited access investigation report that was drafted and stored in a limited access vault at CIA headquarters. Well, Tulsi Gabbard declassified these 46 pages and posted it online. Now, obviously, some of it is still redacted. I don't have the fully sourced version just because, I'm a normal citizen, just like everyone else watching this. But what's really good about this report is the way it's structured. So not only do they have all the annotations, not only is it really descriptive and backs up every point made, but it is very easy to understand. They basically outline key findings, and those are the main subheaders as you go through the report. So key finding number one was basically talking about how the intelligence community findings on Russia are usually highly credible and highly sourced. And what that meant was that it's from multiple high quality sources. They're able to corroborate the information between those sources. Multiple intelligence agencies and intelligence professionals believe the sources, and they're able to agree on what it means. They're able to review it without bias. They know that the sources gave up the information without political intent. There are basically so many, and I'll get to this later in the video, but there are basically guidelines to determine what is credible intelligence and what's not. And the key finding number one is that most of the intelligence on Russia is very credible. So why do they point that out? Well, if the intelligence community mostly has credible and highly confident sources when it comes to Russia, it really makes this Russiagate scandal even worse. It stands out like a sore thumb. Like, if most of your information, if most of your intelligence when it comes to Russia is high quality and credible, and then all of a sudden you perpetrate the Russiagate hoax to the American public for years, and it's based on dubious evidence at best, like, why were the standards suddenly lowered? Is it a coincidence, or is it because there really is a larger conspiracy at play here? And obviously, thanks to the emails declassified last week by Tulsi Gabbard, we know that a lot of this was ordered by Barack Obama himself. Now, as early as pages 3 and 4 in this document, finding number 2, significant tradecraft failings cast doubt on ICA, which is Intelligence Community Assessment judgments of Putin's intentions. Now, before we get into this, they spend a lot of time talking about Putin's intentions, because you can claim all you want that, they were trying to interfere, but why were they trying to interfere? And if they did you basically have to prove that Putin had an intention to be able to make the claim that they even interfered in the first place, right? But here's what's crazy. In contrast to the intelligence community assessment's other judgments, the sections addressing Putin's intentions for influencing the U.S. election did not observe professional criteria set forth in the ICD 203 analytic standards. These failures were serious enough to call into question judgments that allege Putin developed a clear preference for candidate Trump and, quote, aspired to help his chances of victory, and that, quote, Russian leaders never entirely abandoned hope for a defeat of Secretary Clinton. Now, They mentioned the ICD Directive 203, which I found online, and this is basically the intelligence community analytic standards, and it's very detailed as to what they consider credible, what they consider like worthy of being included in these reports. And basically, they found that a lot of these Russiagate claims did not even meet this criteria. Now, on page 3, the House committee found that the 3 reports were published after the election on Director of CIA orders, despite veteran CIA officer judgments that they contained substandard information that was unclear, of uncertain origin, potentially biased, implausible, or in the words of senior operations officers, as in multiple, quote unquote, odd. That's right, despite all of the doubts by top-level intelligence officials, these reports were published at the order, at the behest of CIA Director Brennan. And as we know, due to the declassified documents last week, they were, on track to publish one thing. They were on track to publish the daily presidential briefing, basically saying, oh, there's no evidence of Russia collusion. There's no evidence that they wanted to do any of this. And then overnight, boom, in the span of 12 to 4 hours, they totally changed their course after an Oval Office meeting with President Obama, Brennan, and others at the White House. It really makes you wonder, right? Now, on page 6, on scant and unclear and unverifiable fragments of a sentence from a single human intelligence report published under Director CIA Brennan's order, this constitutes the only classified information by the intelligence community assessment for the judgment that Putin, quote, aspired to help Trump's chances of victory when possible. Okay. That is a mouthful. So basically, what they're saying there was that the claim that Putin wanted to even help Trump in the first place, the Democrats acted as if there was this huge trove of evidence, right? It is only based on one quote from one source, and that source is not credible. This claim has not been verified and corroborated by multiple sources, which is why we talked about the analytic standards earlier, right? They have very clear guidelines as to what constitutes credible information. This met none of those guidelines, and yet they included it. On top of all of this, on top of it not even being a credible source, they don't even fully understand what that person was saying. We'll get to that later on. In fact, it was analyzed by 5 different people, and they had 5 different interpretations of the source's own words. So it all comes down to this. The unclear fragment, shown in bold, is part of the sentence that reads, this is the first bullet point here, Putin had made this decision to leak DNC emails after he had come to believe that the Democratic nominee had better odds of winning the U.S. presidential election, and that candidate Trump, whose victory Putin was counting on, most likely would not be able to pull off a convincing victory. Now, according to a senior CIA operations officer of that fragment in bold, whose victory Putin was counting on, we don't know what was meant by that. And 5 people, 5 intelligence officers read it different ways. So that quote seems straightforward at first, but part of the reason why there was so much confusion is because of the use of brackets. So for those of you unfamiliar, whenever you're quoting someone in writing and you use brackets, that's because that's not actually what the person said. You're either trying to guess what they said, you're, for the sake of the reader, trying to expedite it, or maybe it's unintelligible, right? Like, let's say it's a recording, you're trying to guess your best as to what they meant there. So here's a chart that shows how you can use multiple brackets. So like point number 3, you can use brackets, ellipses to eliminate a large portion of the text. You can replace something, you can explain something. And so basically there are so many uses for that. So if we go back to the quote, Putin had made this decision, bracket, to leak DNC emails. The source never said that. After he had come to believe that the da-da-da-da and that candidate Trump, again, the source never said candidate Trump, whose victory Putin was counting on. Now, that bolded section is what they disagree on. There are some interpretations that the source didn't even say whose victory Putin was counting on, but rather said who Putin thought would win, or who Putin expected to win, which is very different than counting on. And that's why you had 5 intelligence officers read that 5 different ways. On top of that, so they can't even agree on what the quote means. They can't even agree on okay, so they can agree on what it means, But they can agree that this isn't even a high-quality source. In fact, they don't even know where it came from. They said that they, being intelligence officers, said it shouldn't have even been published based on the intelligence community's own analytic guidelines in the report. The significance of this fragment to the intelligence community assessment case that Putin, quote, aspired, end quote, for candidate Trump to win cannot be overstated. The major high confidence judgment of the intelligence community assessment rests on one opinion about a text fragment with uncertain meaning that may be a garble and for which it is not clear how it was obtained. But why did they even publish it in the first place? They continue. This would never have been published without the director of CIA, who at the time was Brennan. His orders to do so is cited using only one interpretation of its meaning and without considering alternative interpretations. And part of those analytic standards, by the way, for the intelligence community is to consider all variations, all meanings, all hypotheticals. They didn't do that. As you saw earlier, 5 different intelligence officers read that one segment. They all interpreted it 5 different ways, and yet they only relied on one for this report that propagated the entire Russiagate hoax. Yeah, it's not just that. There were even more doubts cast on the fragment. So as you can see here, they just didn't do any of it. Now, the intelligence community report doesn't address the source's motivations, and part of that is, again, part of those analytic standards. And so you basically just look at these standards being ignored time and time and time again. And again, this House committee, the House members knew this. Adam Schiff knew this, and yet he and all of his cronies kept pushing this hoax, even though they knew that there was no there. Now, despite the fact that none of this evidence met the intelligence community standards, it was still published. Why? Well, again, because the CIA pros were overruled by Director of CIA Brennan, and they kept pushing against, and they really emphasized the fact that the human intelligence reporting did not meet the threshold for publication, and in fact, the threshold it didn't meet it by so much that they didn't even include it in the first iteration, the first draft of this report. It wasn't until they were told by their higher-ups to put it in that it was actually put in. But here's where things get even worse, as if all of that is not bad enough. So just to recap, we have a source that is not credible. You have a fragment of a quote. No one knows where the quote came from. That fragment, no one can agree on what it means. Now, in the report, they are flat out making up quotes. The ICA, Intelligence Community Assessment, also misquotes the report to indicate that Putin and his inner circle, quote, strongly preferred Republicans. The phrase, quote, strongly preferred Republicans does not appear in the raw intelligence report. Not only is it not in the report, but it's not in any of the sources or in any of the annotations. The quote really came out of nowhere. So not only do you have a poorly sourced, low credibility quote that no one can agree on, you have made up quotes. Well, it turned out that the intelligence community actually had high-level intelligence, credible intelligence, saying the exact opposite of what the Democrats were saying. So, missing from the intelligence community assessment was significant intelligence that a longtime Putin confidant told a sensitive contact that, quote, Putin told him he did not care who won the election. Putin had often outlined the weaknesses of both major candidates, and that Putin asserted that, in either case, quote, Russia was strategically placed to outmaneuver either one. In other words, either candidate had Hillary won instead of Trump. Now, again, according to those analytic guidelines and the intelligence community standards, a longtime confidant is one of the more credible sources you can have. This is someone that they've relied on for years, if not decades, and then obviously this person has a long-standing relationship with Putin. Those are the types of sources and assets that intelligence communities like to use. And not only was it this one person, but what that person was saying was corroborated by multiple confidants at the same level. In fact, they also reported that Hillary Clinton, Russia expected Hillary Clinton to win. They were so confident that Hillary Clinton was going to win that the Russian government, Russian state-run media was already preparing preparing for a Clinton victory party because, quote, they knew where she stood, and despite media stories, Russia could work with her, and, they really thought she was going to win. Now, why is that important that Russia thought Hillary Clinton would win, to the point where they were planning victory parties? Well, if that's true, why would they even release information that could hurt her in the first place? Like, if there was no hope and it was a foregone conclusion. Sure, you may help Trump get a few extra votes, or you may diminish Hillary Clinton's margin of victory, but it's not as if you're going to change the outcome. And from the Russian perspective, all you're doing is antagonizing the West and, really souring your relationship with the future administration before it comes in. Like, what would have been the benefit for Russia, right? And all of this was left out of the report, and an analyst who worked on the report revealed it was left out because the Obama administration denied the intelligence community assessment drafters to access this intelligence on grounds of executive or congressional privilege. So again, you have the Obama administration stepping in here. And now I don't have the footnotes and the annotations to go over what that analyst said, but obviously, as Fox News mentioned early on, they've seen it. Now we get to the Steele dossier, and again, intelligence officers didn't want to include the Steele dossier in this report at all because they found it to be not credible. But why was it included? Because director of the CIA, Brennan, ordered them to include it. One of the analysts and the drafters said, our instructions were that anything we had was to be used. We were to push this. Yeah, they were also told to push it by the FBI, even though it was misleading. It was highly misleading to tell the White House that the dossier primary source, Christopher Steele, was credible when his only credible information came from an unrelated criminal case years prior. So a case that is, again, dubious at best, and then years prior, it's not, how would they know it was going to be President Trump versus Hillary Clinton? Like, they have no idea. And then key finding number 7 here is that the intelligence community assessment ignored strong indicators supporting the alternative hypothesis that, at a minimum, Putin didn't care who won and even had reasons to prefer a Hillary Clinton victory. Yeah, that is absolutely right. And this is the point in the report where they go over the alternative hypotheses as to why Russia even released information that was damaging to Hillary Clinton in the first place. And the prevailing theory is that Russia was sending a warning shot to Hillary Clinton. They wanted to intimidate her. They wanted to say, hey, we know you're about to be elected, and we want to warn you. We can blackmail you. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And once you're president, you better play nice with us, or we have a whole treasure trove, a whole mountain trove of information we can use to blackmail you and make your presidency hell. Well, like, make it a nightmare. And so that was what the theory was. And that's why it's so important earlier in this report where we're talking about Putin's intent, right? They were never able to establish that Putin had intent to help President Trump or to elect President Trump. It doesn't change the fact that, sure, he maybe pushed some unscrupulous information out there about Hillary, but again, intent is important. It doesn't quite rhyme, but I was trying to get somewhere. Now, I have 2 final key pieces of information, again, proving that the Obama administration was behind all of this. But before I do that, I want to acknowledge Stacy L. I am so glad to see you. Glad this one came through. And Helga Shabalaba Ding Dong as the members of today's Governor's Club. These are people who give tips and super thanks to the channel. I am so glad that you enjoy, and I am so glad that you are here. Now, we do know, thanks to this report, that the FBI's director of counterintelligence, yada, 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 they made no mention of Putin aspiring to help elect President Trump. The word aspired was never in any of the sources. It was never human intelligence sources, or what was the other phrase? Basically, when they're intercepting communications, either via email or phone calls or anything like that. There was no source that ever indicated this, but they were told to push it by Barack Obama. Acting on President Barack Obama's orders, director of the CIA, Brennan, directed a full review and publication of raw human intelligence information that had been collected before the information. So you take all of this from this 46-page report, you combine it with the 114-page report that Tulsi Gabbard declassified last week, which has emails from Barack Obama's administration, and you see that about-face happen in 12 to 48 hours Really makes you wonder what is going on here. And I just love this, right? Because we had no idea this was coming. Then all of a sudden, Tulsi Gabbard drops this bombshell. Not only does that happen, but she promises more information is coming, and she delivers. And she says even more is coming. This is what transparency looks like. But as always, all of that is just my analysis and commentary. That is what's going on in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So 2 questions of the day. Number 1, if this is your first deep dive into the report, what stood out to you? Like, what to you is the biggest, oh, that is not good, key piece of information? And then for those of you who have either read the report or you've maybe read articles or seen other content creators talk about it, what are other things in the report that I didn't cover that you think are important and that other people should know? Leave that in the comments, and if you see something that is new to you or you think is good for people to know, please thumbs it up, get it up there so that, you know, there's more information down in the comments too. The more information, the better. If you haven't already, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.